everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to Steve and Dan and I randomly talking about video games. Hi, Dan and Steve.
Hi, Cap.
Hey there.
How you doing? Dan and Steve and I were randomly talking about video games, and we decided why not record us randomly talking about video games. So that is what we're doing right now for you. We have no plan for this whatsoever, but video games is a topic that we don't cover a lot on the channel. Of course, I've done some platforming hours, and we'd like to get back to some of those. I've just been really super busy with stuff, and all the shows really are is I'm going to relax and play a video game. So naturally, while I'm relaxing, I'm also going to make another video. And today, we're going to find out what Dan and Steve really like to play in contrast to what I like to play, and see if we have any common ground whatsoever. So where I want to start with is two questions for each of you. This is great. I'm like, I have no plan, but then here's my plan. I want to start with two questions for each of you, and I'm going to start with Dan. And the question, Dan, first of all, is what is your favorite genre of video games? If you could only play one genre for the rest of your life, what would you pick? And secondly, what is the best game for, in your opinion, in that particular genre? Ready, go.
My favorite gaming genre is role-playing games, specifically Western RPGs. I'm not a big fan of Japanese RPGs, which is more turn-based combat rather than action-based, where you're actively controlling what your character does rather than, selecting an attack and going turn for turn. I like that stuff, but I just like Western RPGs a little bit more. In terms of what's my favorite Western RPG, that's really tough. I mean, I like a lot of stuff. And RPGs are vastly different. It's just basically the structure of the game is kind of like it's roughly based on D&D. So it's you level up your skills. They all contribute to how likely it is that you hit things and stuff like that. And it's all factored into the game for you, so you don't have to do all those calculations. It's kind of a streamlined version of playing a tabletop D&D RPG. But I like the Elder Scrolls series a lot. I'm a big fan of Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim specifically, those three games. I like the Mass Effect trilogy a lot. I like Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. I like the Dragon Age games. I'm trying to think of other stuff. I like a whole lot of those games. That's mainly what I play modern video game-wise. Whenever a new RPG comes out, I'll usually check it out if it's one of the big budget ones or the AAA-wise. I used to play World of Warcraft a lot. That was an RPG I was really into when I was in high school. Me and my friends used to play it. I still play Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is an MMO, basically Western RPG, but you just play with friends. So, yeah, that's my favorite genre of games. I mean, my favorite franchise is Zelda, which isn't an RPG, but if I could play any genre for the rest of my life, it would probably be RPGs.
Okay, Steve, what is your favorite genre and, in your opinion, the best in that? Dan copped out there. He's like, I'm not going to say what the best is. Here's a list of everything I like. Go ahead, Steve.
So when it comes to video games, I have almost no criteria whatsoever, except it better be fun. And because I'm not a big gamer, so I love first-person shooters. I will play a first-person shooter all day. There was a time in high school where I'd wake up at 6 a.m., go to bed at midnight, doing nothing but play Call of Duty all day. I was one of those guys. And
oh, were you really? Wow.
It's
okay.
strange because
Dan and I are hissing at you right now. We're like,
I used to play Call of Duty with my friends in high school, but I didn't play it that much.
I don't know. I had a thing for it. I really like first-person shooters because I don't have to think about it. That's kind of it. It's like your day is so long and boring, and you do all these things, and you work with all this stuff, and at the end of the day, you can just pull out a gun and shoot things.
You are a regular Frank Underwood, Steve.
I guess so. I don't know. It's a good way to relieve pressure the same way he does it. I haven't kept up with the latest Call of Duty games just because I haven't had time, and they're really expensive. But the last one that I really loved was Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. I thought when they solidified that format, it was great, but after that, they really went too much into recopying the format over and over again as opposed to making it more fun. They really lacked creativity going forward, but like I said, I didn't care that much. I just liked shooting things. I've got I like Dan says, I've got a different franchise that I like more than Call of Duty, and that's Uncharted. And that's because Uncharted's actually a legitimately well-told story with good characters, and it's one of the most fun action games you can play. It's like playing an action movie. But in terms of just everyday, what do? I play first-person shooters, and I shoot things in Call of Duty. I am that guy.
Wow, I didn't know that about you. I'm learning things about Steve.
Did you play a lot of Halo 2 back in the day? That was a game that,
Yes.
first-person shooter-wise, that I thought was phenomenal. Halo 3 I used to play a lot too, but specifically Halo 2, I used to play local multiplayer all the time with friends back
Oh
when I
yeah,
was a
I
kid.
used to be big into Halo. My only problem with Halo is that if you just kept shooting and running forward and then melee, you'd win
You
every
win.
time, every
Yeah.
single time. There was no strategy there really, but then I didn't care because I got to relieve stress.
There's strategy if you're playing against people that are really good, but yeah, if you're like playing against people that are just,
Yeah,
playing
and I
around.
prefer to snipe with things like that. Like Halo sniper games are so much fun.
Well, I have, of course, a completely different perspective than you guys on video games, and obviously, you guys aren't even completely the same kind of gamer, or well, obviously, not even close. But you are closer to the same age, and so my perspective is a little bit different. My thing with video games is that I have no attention span. So a lot of the kind of stuff that both of you guys like to play, I just can't get into because I feel like I have to sit there longer than I want to. A lot of the time. I'm also really, really bad at. I may be gonna reveal too much about myself. I'm also really bad at finding things. I have no sense of direction. So whenever I play a game where there's like a map, where you're like, well, there's a map. Look at the map, and I'm like, I'm terrible at it. I have no sense of direction. So when Steve's like, oh, I come home and I relax with first person shooters, I'm like, wow, I can't even get my mind around that, man. I play Hitman and I just get killed all day long because I'm not well, so I'm not gonna find any things, and I'm also I also have no patience for like sniping and stuff. I don't want to sit in one place for 5 minutes and play a video game. My fingers are supposed to be moving. So that's the thing. I have really enjoyed those kinds of games at different times, Steve, but I'm just no good at them.
That's fair.
Dan, I've never cared for RPGs.
Fair
I
enough.
don't know why. I think again I just don't have the patience for them.
No,
I'm a
they're really
platformer guy.
long games. You gotta
Yeah,
invest like 200 hours in most RPGs to like get the full
Ugh.
everything out of them.
and if you play Fable, the game doesn't get interesting until like 200 hours into the game.
And see, my
Yeah,
wife loves Fable, and I
Fable's a
sat
fun
down and tried
game.
to play it with her once, and I was just like, I don't know, it's so involved. I don't care. My thing with the whole RPG idea, and then I'll get into platformers. My whole thing with the RPG idea is that it's a role playing game. I feel like I'm supposed to be, like in a really interesting, intricate story. And every time I've ever looked at one for very long, and maybe I just haven't played the right ones, I always just want to put the controller down and go and write my own story. That's how I always feel about it.
Yeah, you probably haven't played the right ones.
Yeah, maybe so. Like Knights of the Old Republic is incredible. You should
Yeah,
definitely check
it's
that out.
it's an incredible game.
I've been asked 1,000 times to do a Rewind United on Mass Effect.
Mass Effect
Um,
1 and 2 have really good stories. The ending to 3 is really disappointing because the story got
yeah,
leaked online
that's what
before
everybody
they
says.
released it, and they changed it really fast towards the end
Yeah.
of production so they would surprise people.
But wasn't there a DLC that went back to the original ending?
There was, but I haven't played it because I have it for Wii U, and they didn't release the
Uh,
DLC on Wii
okay.
U.
But yeah, people have asked me to do that, and they've asked me to review the story of Bioshock, and
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know if I can like. I don't know. I gotta make myself sit down and play those, or I've gotta like watch just somebody else play it online and then just review the story.
with things like Bioshock and Uncharted, you could get away with that because the gameplay and the cutscenes are so well integrated. It might as well be a movie.
Yeah, yeah, and
That's
like when
that.
I did when I did my rewind for Arkham City, I did it that way. Like I played about half that game again. Of course, I had played it through before, but I kept stopping and writing notes, and it was just so weird, like playing a video game and stopping constantly to write notes down. And eventually, I was like, God, I gotta get this video out. So I just watched the rest of the story on online, and it kind of worked pretty well. But you still have to walk around and look at a lot of stuff to get more of the story. Because the weird thing about a video game story is that you being the central protagonist, some of the work in figuring out what all the story elements are is up to you. It's not just the cutscenes. So you might, if you miss small details, they might be more integral than you realized. And that's very different from watching a movie, which shows you everything.
Yeah, I think video games and comic books have the something in common in that you are the person that controls the pace of the game. You can experience the story as rapidly or as slowly as you would like. When I'm playing an RPG, when you play those kind of games, you can get so sucked into the world of the game. Like you can go into like, for example, in Dragon Age, you can go into the library and read books about the history of the world and like why the world that you're existing in now, like politics wise exists the way it does, culturally why the way it does if you want to, but you don't have to experience it that way. So the experience is as deep or as shallow as you want it to be, which is interesting.
Which is why trying to do a literary analysis of one is really aggravating.
Yeah.
It's really tough because you're almost too in control. Like like with a comic book, you have control of the pacing too, but everything that's in the book is right there in front of you.
Right,
You don't have to
exactly.
walk off and go find anything. Yeah. And so like when I reviewed Arkham City and I was talking about and I gave my read on the whole Harley Quinn is pregnant thing, people were like, well, it turns out that in the DLC thing, that there's a bunch of tests strewn around the floor that are negative, so she's not pregnant. I'm like, well, I just didn't happen to duck down and look. So I didn't notice that. Like, I had a lot of comments where people were like, God, how'd you not notice that? I'm like, because I was fighting people and not looking for that. Anyway, I'll talk for a minute about my favorite genre of video games. So I feel like an old person talking to you guys, and I like we're not that far
No,
off.
but I like
in
those
age,
games
but
too.
like,
Yeah, so do
yeah, I am okay. I am a classic gamer. I like side-scrolling platformers. That's my favorite thing. And I enjoy some 3D platformers too. But my I mean like Mario 64 and the and especially the Mario Galaxy games are super fun.
Phenomenal games.
But my favorite thing is still 2D side scrollers, and I love that we live in a world where a lot of indie gamers have embraced that and innovated with it and are still doing things with that. Because it's it doesn't have to be outdated. You know what I mean? Like it's still its own genre, and just because we've learned how to do 3D doesn't mean that there's not still a place for 2D. I look at it exactly the same way as I look at hand drawn animation versus computer animation. Just because we can do it in computer doesn't mean that hand drawn has to be outdated. It's a different aesthetic. It's a different style. There's something totally unique about it. And so anyway, I guess my favorite platformer. See, I'm gonna try not to be a dad and actually pick one, but I don't know if I can. My favorite platformer of all time is probably still Donkey Kong Country.
Oh yeah, those are great games. Nice. I think I've recommended to this game to you before, Cap. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to play it yet, but a game that I think you would really love that just came out. It's an indie game. It's a 2D side-scrolling platform. It's called Shovel Knight, and it won.
I still haven't done it.
It won a bunch of Game of the Year awards because it's one of the people said it should have been an SNES game. It feels like it's right out of that era. The people that made the game, it was all inspired by stuff like DuckTales and some of the classic 2D platformers of the day. I think you'd really enjoy it. And it just speaks to the love that people still have for that stuff, that they're still making it. Microsoft is backing, I think, an indie developer. I forget what the name of the game is. I think it's like Ori and the Blind Forest or something like that. And it was an indie developer that was making a 2D platform, and Microsoft backed them, and now they're going to get even more money to make sequels and stuff like that. So even like the big companies are embracing that genre of game that's still alive and well, which is awesome.
Yeah, especially on mobile. Like if you want to play any cell phone video game, most of them, if not all of them, are just 2D side scrollers because you can do so many creative things with new technology there. There's a great one called Black and White where it's just you cut back and forth between black and white scenery and get through different mazes, and it's wonderfully well made.
When I was a kid, something like 70 or 80% of everything people played was the 2D side scroller. Like that was the FPS of my day when I was, or at least of my childhood, right? Like everybody played it, and then I grew up, and somewhere, FPS became the thing you had to play if anybody considered you a hardcore gamer. And I guess you could get away with calling yourself that if you played MMOs too. So basically, if you were Dan or Steve, you could be considered a hardcore gamer. But if you were me, it's like, oh, you're like a casual gamer. And I'm like, I don't know, I wasn't a casual gamer when I was a kid. Why am I a casual gamer now? You know what I mean?
That mentality's since broken down though, because now
has it?
more and more, a lot of the best games coming out and a lot of the worst reviewed games are FPSs, and the best ones are side scrollers or platforming games, and a lot of the newer franchises are trying to recapture that. Like Sly Cooper was a great 3D platformer, and they created a new game, and it wasn't great, but people loved the gaming mechanics, and a lot of the best Wii games are that same way. So
See, I'm a
you
little
can
out of
still
touch
be
right
considered a
now.
hardcore gamer if you do platformers. But yeah, like 5 years ago, that would have been the exact opposite.
I think there's.
Well, I'm glad if that's changing. That's cool. I mean, it sounds like people are just being a little bit more accepting, like, you know, sort of like we've become about comics and stuff. So that's cool. And I know that like nostalgia is really in, but I want to stress I don't feel like it has to just everything has to be a throwback. I feel like that's a medium, you know, or at least a subgenre.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a sort of indie uprising and revolution going on in gaming right now, where a lot of people are saying the best stuff coming out of gaming is not the big AAA studios. It's just kind of the small developers that'll put out games for downloadable on Steam and Xbox Live and PSN, because a lot of the AAA studios, at this point, it takes so much money to make a AAA video game that if your game bombs, then your studio just kind of goes out of business. So it's a huge risk. And what the AAA studios are doing is they're just saying, well, we know the next Call of Duty will sell, so we can't afford to take any risks other than to just make that. You know, there are great video game studios.
Sounds a little like Hollywood.
Yeah. There's a lot of really great video game studios, like, for example, Raven Software. They made the X-Men Legends games, and they made the first Marvel Ultimate Alliance game. And they are owned by Activision. Activision owns most of them. And they got assigned to just making Call of Duty DLC maps now, because Call of Duty is the thing that sells, and they need to keep pumping out content for people. And I feel like it's a waste of their talent, because Raven's a great studio, and they made dungeon crawling RPGs before. They're a versatile studio, and it's really unfortunate. But a lot of people are just seeing a lot of people that used to work at the AAA studios leave and go do their own thing. Like, for example, Telltale Games, they're a gaming studio that makes games that are like interactive storybooks, like the ones that you would flip to the page if you made a choice, and if you chose the wrong choice, you would die or whatever. They make games that are like that. They made a Walking Dead game. They made a Game of Thrones one, and they recently announced Marvel is partnering with them, and they're making a game. And they're a smaller developer.
They did Back to the Future.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they also did a Fable one.
Yes, so
that's interesting.
I think that's cool. Where the new innovative stuff in gaming is coming out, is the indie scene, which is really exciting.
Well, that's great, yeah, and it's interesting because we're seeing that in a lot of different mediums, right? I mean,
yes.
Like we're seeing that in comics. A lot of people are leaving the big two and looking at creator-owned stuff over at Image. We're seeing that in movies. People are a lot more interested in indie stuff than they used to be. We're seeing that with television. Some people watch nothing but YouTube videos now. I mean, it's really interesting where things have gone. And I never cared about indie games. I was always like, oh, that's just some dude in his basement. The thing probably breaks. I didn't know anything. And then I watched Indie Video Games the movie, which that documentary, which I love so much, I've seen it twice, and I played Meat Boy, and Super Meat Boy is fantastic. I wish I'd had that on my Super Nintendo when I was a kid, except that there's no way it would have come out because it's bloody. But it's just it's not his fault. He's made of meat, so there's blood.
It maybe would have come out on the Genesis, but not the Super Nintendo.
I love that. Yeah. And he would have worked for the studio that was making Earthworm Jim.
Yeah.
I think that would have fit really well there. But I don't know, man. I have a really hard time not just going back to the classics. A lot of that stuff really holds up for me. I don't get tired of Super Mario World. I don't get tired of Donkey Kong Country. And a lot of that stuff, I think I still like to go back and play because it feels really satisfying when you get really good at it and beat levels and stuff. I mean, it's hard. You know, a lot of that stuff is still kind of tough. And if you haven't played it in a lot of years, you go back to it, and there's a certain amount of muscle memory. But sometimes there's some, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to play this for a couple hours and really get good at it again. And like I said that I don't have the attention span to sit there and get into something really involved and play for a lot of hours. But I just like those games because I will play those for a lot of hours. You have to get good at them. But I like to be able to play a thing for 15 minutes and get up if I have to. That's
Right, yeah. And I think it's really
it's a
interesting.
lifestyle thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think the transition to the indie scene is very conducive to the kind of games that you're talking about. Because if you think of like the games that Nintendo used to make when they were dominating the market. It didn't take as many people to make a video game back then as it does now. It takes thousands of people, teams of thousands of programmers and art designers and stuff like that to make a video game. You think about like a game like the original Legend of Zelda. Shigeru Miyamoto and a small team of people made the original Legend of Zelda, and they had passion for what they were doing. They created a game that was completely innovative. Nobody had ever seen anything like that before. And there's some games that are coming out on the indie scene like two people made, and it's one of the most innovative things that gaming's ever seen before. I can't think of an example specifically off the top of my head, but that stuff is happening. So I think it's just sort of a natural kind of thing with these gatekeepers going away. You're going to see the smaller studios evolve and make games like the ones that you enjoyed back when you were a kid, when it was just small studios making something that they were really passionate about.
Yeah, and I mean, if all
And
three
that's
of
not to
us
say
want to
that
sit down and
things.
make a video game, download a couple of programs and you've got it.
Yeah,
The technology's gotten to
yeah.
such a point where you don't have to be a multi-million-dollar studio to make things anymore. And it's just a matter of what you would want to play and what you wish you could have played when you were a kid. And a lot of people seem to share that mentality and make more of these indie games.
And once again, that's like movie making. It's cheaper
right.
than it was. The software is easier to use.
And of course, I'm not saying that AAA studios have more or less passion than smaller studios for the thing they're making. I'm sure that, the people at BioWare making Mass Effect 4 right now have an immense amount of passion for the game that they're making in that universe because they created that themselves. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
they created an intellectual property that, it's hard to make a new IP and have it permeate the way that Mass Effect has and the culture and stuff like that. They didn't have a previous license like they did with Star Wars when they made Knights of the Old Republic. They obviously have a large amount of passion for it, but sometimes it's tough, especially with studios like Activision, where they demand a new sequel for a game every year. It's hard to keep that passion up when you just have to keep pumping it out every year to get the sales. Like they're doing that with Assassin's Creed, they're doing it with Call of Duty. They're starting to do that kind of stuff with all kinds of gaming franchises. You see, annualizing is the trend among AAA studios right now.
And I mean, Assassin's Creed didn't start that way. Assassin's Creed started as a couple of guys wanting to make a really immersive world and experience, and they got better with the second one, but then it got too popular.
And that's not to say those games are bad. I've enjoyed like a lot of them since the second one, but it's just kind of the same thing. They're not innovating all that much,
Yeah, and I mean,
And do they have time to really?
Because Uncharted's got the same thing where they made a game, they're on the fourth one now, and it's not because they're making more because they sell, but they're making more because they've got stories to tell.
Right.
Yeah. Dan, you're talking about franchises where yeah, they sell really well and that's why they're still being made, but the people that are there love it. I mean, I feel like that's true of at least some of the Lego games.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
you're certainly seeing that with the Marvel one, and then the Lego Batman 3. I mean, like, those people clearly are just eating up that they have that license and that they get to work in that world. I mean, they made a hidden Adam West level. I mean, like, you don't do that except you love what you get to work with. That's really cool. They didn't have to do that, and so that kind of thing excites me. I guess I feel the same way with video games as I do again about some other mediums. I guess I'm doing a lot of comparison where I feel like there's not enough all ages stuff that's not the same stuff that Nintendo makes every 3 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair.
It's definitely gotten to the point, at the same point where like movies are at, where everything's rated PG-13 and there's a certain amount of edginess to everything that comes out because that's what sells, I suppose. It's interesting that model has worked better for video games than it has for comic books because they've been trying to do that for, since Frank Miller and Alan Moore, came on the scene at DC. But Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. I wish there was more all ages games because that's how you grow your audience, especially with video games. I think one of the successful things about the Wii, at least initially, was they promised people that this was an experience that you could have with anybody. It wasn't geared towards a specific demographic. It was just like, if you like to have fun, this is the machine you want to use. I don't
Yeah,
think
there was
they
no prerequisite,
Right. I
right?
don't think there was I don't think they followed up as well as they could have. Like they didn't get a whole lot of great third-party support. They got third-party support. There was a lot of like games made by other companies, but most of them were really bad.
Most of them were really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. After I looked at a couple, I was like, all right, I'm done with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
And the
like
thing with the Wii U is I don't feel like they've gotten the that same kind of all ages. And when I say all ages, like remember the DS? I mean, we had elderly people playing the DS. Like,
yeah.
there were all kinds of things for everybody. There were crossword puzzle games, like there was stuff for everybody. They kind of quit doing that stuff, and they're not farming that out to third party like they used to. And then the Wii U, the people I know that have it are the same people that have all the other systems. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like that it's become just a system for people that already play video games. And I mean, do we really need to push that hard to people that don't? I don't know. But I feel like with the Wii, we got some people that weren't gamers before they came in and played that, and I don't think those people bought a Wii U.
The thing with the
Yeah.
Wii U is that it was kind of Nintendo's apology to the Nintendo hardcore fans, where they were like, okay, guys, we're going to make a system that's for you, the hardcore gamers. We get graphics just like the Xbox 360 and the PS3. It's maybe a little bit more powerful than those systems, and we're going to get third party support. We're going to get the Batman Arkham game on our system that came out a year ago. We're going to get Mass Effect 3 on our system, which came out a year ago. All the games that you had already played on your other systems, we're going to get third party support on our system.
And then we're not gonna put out the sequels to those.
Exactly. And then Xbox, 6 months later, Microsoft and Sony announced they're coming out with new systems with vastly better technology in them than the Wii U has. And all the developers are like, well, we can make a gimped game for the Wii U, or we can use the resources in the new systems and make games that are much more expansive, much more interesting. Much more ambitious than the things we were able to make with the old technology. Why would we develop anything for the Wii U? Why that doesn't make any sense to us. It would cost more money for us to downgrade it and port it to the Wii U and make the technology make it run on that technology rather than just not put it out on there in the first place because the Wii U has a very small demographic of people that have actually bought the system in the first place. It's a very small market. It doesn't make any sense to put games on the system.
Yeah, and so the good news with that is that if you buy a game on Wii U, it's probably actually developed like it should go on that system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's not this like gutted thing. Because we had tons of that on the Wii, where I would be. I used to work at a video game store years ago, and somebody would buy a Wii game that was one of those just kind of downgraded port things. I guess for some reason they did more of them on a lot of them on the Wii, and they
They did.
didn't. And they didn't do those on the Wii U. And somebody would buy one, and I would be like, "Yep, they bought that because that's the only system they have, and they're going to be severely disappointed because they basically just bought half a game, and
Yeah.
and not even half a game. They basically bought a game that just kind of broken and doesn't work because it wasn't made for that. They had like they tried to do like Your Shape and those kinds of exercise games on that system, and they're broken. They don't work. Like they had a camera system that was just awful, and it's really unfortunate. Well, so the nice thing with the Wii U is that you don't have that problem. If you buy a game on the Wii U, it's probably going to actually play like it's supposed to, and you're not gonna wish you had a better system playing it. The problem is there's like 5 games still. Like there's there's just not enough. It doesn't have much of a library. What's there is quite good. I have a Wii U. I love what I've bought for it. I'm very happy with it. I never buy a game and wish I bought it on another system. But and the nice thing is there hasn't been enough stuff on the other two systems, the next gen systems that have come out that I feel the need to buy one yet, except for when Arkham Knight happens, then I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I'm glad to keep
But
playing that for that exact same reason.
yeah, me too. Yeah, but I just wish that it had a bigger library because there's not all that much. There's not all that much to play.
No,
on.
I mean I agree. I mean maybe this is just kind of becoming Nintendo discussions, but I love
That's all right.
Nintendo's my
That's what I have right now.
Nintendo's my favorite gaming company, so I love talking about them. So it's very telling to me that the Wii U, when Smash Brothers and Mario Kart came out, their sales weren't affected very much at all. Like the Wii, those two games didn't move units, and if those games don't move units for you, the only thing that'll move units for you is a new Legend of Zelda game, because they already put out the Mario game, Mario 3D World, which was fun. I liked it. It wasn't as good as Galaxy, but it was fun.
No, not even a little bit. The problem with can I say this
Yeah,
real
yeah,
quick?
sure.
The problem with 3D World is that it's basically, well, it's not even a problem. It's just I wish that they'd done another 3D platform, because it's not really a 3D platformer. It's a 2D platformer that looks kind of 3D. You know what I mean?
It's kind of a half step.
It is, but it's not. It's kind of a neat way to go. But the problem is it feels a little bit lazy if you're not going to do something like Galaxy, something in that vein, because it's still your basic 8 world system, and Galaxy was pretty big, you know,
Yeah.
and it just, so I don't know. I feel like they kind of, and they probably felt like, well, we have that, and we have New Super Mario Brothers, which they've got to stop calling them that because they're not new anymore. But we still have those, so I'm like, I don't know. That's your new 3D Mario game, really? All right.
Yeah, and I mean I have
It's
to
fun.
say about that game, I think it's probably the best multiplayer Mario game ever. Like I've played
It
through that
is.
game. It's
I agree with that.
they refined it really well. That I think that was the focus and they did it well. I just wish it was a more expansive game, like you were saying. But so if you put out a Mario game, a Mario Kart game, and a Smash Brothers game, and that doesn't necessarily move the units that you were thinking, that's not a good sign. And then Nintendo announced right next to each other that they are already working on their next hardware. It's called the NX, and Zelda is delayed till 2016. That tells me that Zelda is going to go the way of Twilight Princess in that it's going to launch as a launch game for the new system and simultaneously be on the Wii U. Because when Twilight Princess came out, it was supposed to come out for the GameCube, and then they delayed it a little bit so they could port it to the Wii and have it be a launch title for the Wii. So be like, oh, look, you can play the new Legend of Zelda game on our new system. Go buy it. I have a feeling that's what they're going to do with the Zelda game that was supposed to be on Wii U, and it's supposed to be this big, expansive open world experience that we've never seen before with Zelda. So, it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah,
Huh.
Wow, that's weird. If they put out a new system this soon, what I'm really hoping they do this time is if they keep going with the gamepad or they have something like it, please make it possible to buy more than one. That's the stupidest thing about that system, is that if you want to play 2 player, you can't both have one of those. It's a good controller.
yeah.
I mean, like it's a really good, and it's much better than any of the gamepads they have for the Wii and all that stuff. And it's just, I don't know, it's annoying. If one it's part of the system. If one breaks down, it's really hard to buy another one. And I've got one and the one I've got has a button that's starting to stick, and I can't replace it very easily.
Yeah, I think you have to like mail into Nintendo or whatever to like get a new one, and that's kind of a pain.
That's stupid. Just sell the things, you know. Even if they're $75, $100, whatever they're, just sell them.
I mean, it doesn't cost that much to develop those things. Microsoft and Sony do it all the time with all of their controllers.
I don't get that.
Yeah,
that's a side note, but I don't get it.
So I just want to ask briefly, in terms of the current gen systems, I own an Xbox One and a Wii U. I'm very pleased with both of them. The Wii U a little bit less so because it doesn't get a lot of third-party support, but the games it has on it, like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, fantastic.
Oh my god. Best side scroll I've played in a long time.
Yeah,
I mean, the one
really
before
good.
it's really good too, but I like it a lot.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's phenomenal. Then you got Mario 3D World, which I really liked. You got Mario Kart, probably the best looking game of this generation. It's a phenomenal looking game. You got Smash Brothers, excellent game. I love the new Smash Brothers. It's much better than Brawl. It rivals
I think
Melee.
it could use more. It could use more characters, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the biggest roster of any Smash Brothers ever, but yeah.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I mean, it could.
I don't know why it felt light to me. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
And Mewtwo's coming out, and they're holding like voting, and you can vote for which characters you want to be in the game. They're potentially going to get the rights. Like it's rumored that Banjo-Kazooie is going to be in the next round of DLC.
Oh, well,
That's
that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know they were doing DLC. Well, never mind. That's awesome because there's certainly enough for launch. Yeah, I got no problem with that. And I think it's super cool that they made it to where you could buy more maps for I'm sorry, more courses for Mario Kart. That is cool because, again, they put out the same amount of courses that you usually get, so it's not like you're getting slighted or anything.
Right. So like all of the games on Wii U, I'm really pleased with, but the Xbox One is kind of my third party machine. The only franchise that I'm a huge fan of that Microsoft owns wholesale is Fable, and the last Fable game wasn't the best, and the new game that they announced, Fable Legends, isn't Fable. It's not like a traditional RPG. It's kind of like you play as the dungeon master of a D&D game or 3 predestined characters, and you have no choice or customization as to what your character's like. You don't make any moral choices like you do in the first, second, and third Fable game. It's weird. I
I
like
don't think it's
Halo.
inherently a bad idea, but it's certainly not Fable. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's fine if you're going to do a kind of spin-off thing, but I'd rather see a more traditional Fable RPG kind of game. I like Halo, but I don't know. Ever since Bungie got away from Halo, I haven't liked the gameplay as much. They've tried to make it more like Call of Duty. So I just use my Xbox as a third-party machine to play games like Dragon Age Inquisition, and whenever I think the new Fallout game is going to get announced at E3, and I'm going to play the crap out of that because it's probably going to be set in Massachusetts. So yes.
That's awesome, man. See, I never played games like that, but if they had an FPS or something that was set in Kansas City, I'd be like, yeah,
Yeah, right. Like,
that would be so cool. Like, I want to go. I don't mean for real. I mean in a video game. I'd love to go shoot up like the Power Light District.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And one of my favorite games that I played recently was Wolfenstein: The New Order. For a history buff like me, it's an alternate.
Yeah, this game's cool.
It's a really story-driven game, and it's all about an alternate history where the Nazis won World War II, and you have to fight your way through like occupied Nazi London and like see what the United States is like if the Nazis took over and their culture like dominated the entire world. And you see a guy that's like Jimi Hendrix, like underground, like playing the Star Spangled Banner as he gets like shot down by the Nazis. I was like, this is the best thing ever. This is like Dan Torrey, like the game he would want. Because it's like set in the 1960s, 20 years after the Nazis would have won. So I don't know. It's a really cool game. So games like that, that's what I use my Xbox for, is all of the third-party stuff. Steve, like, what do you have a PlayStation 3 right now, right? So you can play some of that stuff because they're still putting out, ports from the new generation stuff to PS3 and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I imagine that'll stop soon. I don't know how soon, but
I mean, yeah, it's probably going to stop soon. But I've got a PS3, an Xbox 360, a Wii, and my gaming PC. And I just use my PC at this point.
oh yeah, PC is the best way to go if you can afford it, for sure.
Exactly. And my laptop's perfect for games like that. And I get the fun stuff. I get like more Call of Duty on my laptop. I get Dragon Ball Z games. Dragon Ball Z Universe is amazing, by the way. But
the fun stuff. If your name is Steve Baxi, none of that stuff sounds fun to me at all.
I grew up on Dragon Ball Z games, so okay. But yeah, I mean, at some point I'm gonna have to buy a PS4, not just because of Arkham Knight, but because of Uncharted 4. And
Well, why can't you just play Arkham Knight on your PC?
I can play Arkham Knight on my PC, but I can't play Uncharted 4 on my PC.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying I don't know why that would make you have to buy a PS4.
Well, I mean that's the initial motive. The big problem is Arkham Knight's a really, really high end game. I'm not sure if my PC can take it necessarily,
Okay.
and I don't want to spend like $60 on a PC game that I can't use.
See, I'm worried about that too. Like I've got a pretty good graphics card. It might be able to handle it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean we're talking about the Batmobile. The data for that one vehicle is as big as any PS3 disc. That's a lot of data. So
Yeah,
I don't know if my PC can handle it, but at some point I will get a PS4 and get not only Arkham Knight but Uncharted 4, and hopefully if they keep making Sly Cooper games or more Ratchet and Clank games, I'll definitely get more of those. But it's been kind of annoying playing only on the PS3 because now Sony is really quickly stopping support for that. So you don't get as many updates. Newer games are a little bit more sluggish, and you can't get any patches. A lot of the DLC, the good stuff, isn't usually there. So it's almost like they're forcing you out of PS3 to get to the PS4.
I want to talk a little bit about fandom of video games in the sense of what companies you guys like the most, because I think from a young age I was always a Nintendo kid, and I know Captain Logan, you were always a Sega kid, weren't you?
No, I was both simultaneously.
But Sega was kind of your thing, wasn't it? Like you preferred the Sega platform and most of the games that were on Sega for the most part. Really?
No, not really. No, I'm not gonna say that. No, I played them both equally. I just got lucky and happened to have both systems. And bought equally on them. When it came to third party stuff that they put on both, we usually went Super Nintendo because the sound was usually better. And they're usually a little bit better. Yeah, port wise. But no, I like Mario and Sonic equally. I think the reason I have that reputation, Dan, as a Sega guy is because I'm the only person I knew when I was a kid that played that stuff and knew anything about it. So I have I have kind of a nostalgia for that stuff because I was in my own little world with it. I didn't know a lot of people that played Sonic. I mean, I knew a couple, but most of my friends were into Super Nintendo. I had one friend that introduced me to that stuff, and then when I moved back with my dad, he got a Sega when I was like 10, and we played that all the time. So I don't know, back and forth, Dan. I was really majorly into both, but I was always a Sega supporter, because I didn't know a lot of people that played it, and I was always kind of worried that eventually it was going to go out like it did, you know. So like
Yeah.
I always supported it really hard, you know. So I was like, I guess I was representing, but I definitely can't say that I liked it more than Super Nintendo.
What has happened to Sega is really sad. Like they are such a
It is.
shell of what they used to be. See, like I was always a Nintendo kid because my first system was the N64, and then I got the GameCube, and I've bought all of the Nintendo systems subsequently. But in terms of like the systems that were up to date with like the software of the time, and we're getting the cutting edge like third party games, I've always been an Xbox guy rather than a PlayStation person. And Steve, you sound like PlayStation is kind of like your wheelhouse. Like, did you own a PS2? I owned an original Xbox. I've never owned a Sony system before.
Right. Well, I mean, I had a PS1, but I didn't. I got a PS2, and then before getting the PS3, I actually had Xbox 360 for like 3 years. So I got a PS3 really late. But I don't know. I'm sort of both. I used to be really big into Microsoft, and then they got terrible with pricing, and
Yeah,
they would rip
they
you
do.
off
Yeah.
constantly. It got to this point where if you went to buy a game, you didn't get the game. You got the skin of the game, and then you buy everything else DLC or 5 months later down the line, and you
And
can't play anything.
it still cost you what a PS4 game or a PS3 game would.
Not as much as Microsoft though, because at least the prices are a bit more reasonable from what I've seen. It really bugs me. Like Microsoft Points was terrible. I hated Microsoft Points. That was a terrible system.
Points was stupid.
But all I'm saying is you'd pay the same for the game, but then you'd had to download a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's all. Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, it's really annoying. I still really like. I think I like the Xbox controller more than I like the PlayStation controller though.
I definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just fits in the hand better, and I think the range of motion with that is just a lot better than the PS3 stuff and the PS4 stuff because they're too thin.
I always thought that Xbox had a much better online infrastructure. Like if
Yes.
you're looking to play online first-person shooters or any kind of online game on a console, you kind of need to own an Xbox, especially since we've subsequently learned that Sony's security on the online realm is pretty poor. Like even
I think they learned their lesson, you know.
And this isn't even like the first time. Before like their movie studio got hacked, the PSN was down for like weeks because there was hackers like going after that stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was talking about. Yeah. I almost forgot about the movies. And then you said, we know that they're video game. I'm like, don't we mean the entire company?
Yeah.
Like
it
pretty
happens
sure
every time a big game gets released.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure their password is just like PlayStation, you know? Like,
PlayStation.
Their password is 1. It's not hard to get in there, man.
I'm curious, like, okay, so we've talked a little bit about like the genres you like and like where we like to play games and stuff. If you guys had to choose definitively like one game that's your favorite game of all time, what would you choose?
Yeah. By the way, I was gonna do that at the end here.
Okay.
That was my
interesting.
whole plan.
Okay.
I was gonna do that. At some point, Dan kind of just took this whole thing over, but that's all right.
I'm sorry.
It's video games.
Dan's
No,
clearly
you're fine. You're fine. He's doing a good job. I feel like I can relax a little bit. I'm just sitting back drinking a latte. That's great. Yeah. Steve, why don't you go first? I gotta think.
That's tough. One game for the rest of my life that I could play constantly.
Is that what we're talking about? Like that's all the desert island situation where like that's all you get to play?
I'm just saying like the game that you have enjoyed the most that you've ever played. Like the one that made you into a gamer. The one that was like, yes, this is what I like to do.
Because I'm going back and rewatching the show, the nostalgia for Attire, and I remember playing this game constantly. I have more hours in that game than anything else. I would go with Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. That game was incredible. That was the best fighting game I've ever played.
I just want to see him try to say that like 5 times fast.
I don't think I can, but no, that game is good. I wish Xenoverse was as good as that game. It's good, but it's not as good.
What do you think, Captain Logan?
Boy, it's hard, man. I mean, I almost got to go by genre, you know, like, and you'd think,
Don't
you know,
Dan this one.
yeah, I'll try not to. Yeah, I try not to pull a Dan. You'd think I love that you posited that. I'm like, Dan, you know, you can't even do this.
No, I
You
can.
couldn't
I
do it
have
out
my
of
answer already.
You couldn't do it out of a singular category. But what I think is fascinating about what Steve just did was that it's not even in his favorite genre. I think
mine
that's
isn't either.
fascinating.
Mine isn't.
Yeah,
either.
isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That is really hard. I have a hard time not saying Virtual Fighter.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
Because that was just and probably two. Although I don't know, three's really good too. But I don't know. That's tough. As far as like the thing that really got me into like gaming, you know, it was like it was the original Mario, but on an NES. But I mean, you know, I beat that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead, Dan. I'm gonna think some more though, because there's a couple more.
My favorite video game of all time, and this is easier for me because this was the game that kind of made me realize that games could be more than what I had perceived them to be before. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time was the game that really had a profound effect on me and made me really love video games. And it's my favorite game ever.
So good.
I still go back and play that game every year all the way through. I've memorized like all of it, and it's the best. I love it. Everything
Have you
about
played
it.
on the 3DS?
I have. I have played the remake. I've played through the Master Quest on that, and I also when I pre-ordered Wind Waker back in the day on my GameCube, it came with a disc with Ocarina of Time, the original N64 game, and the Master Quest game. And I've beaten that one too. And the Master Quest on the DS is a little bit different, and it was challenging, and I love that. I don't know. I still have to buy the Majora's Mask remake because that's also one of my favorite video games of all time because that's a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. It's a fantastic game. But I haven't played the remake on the 3DS yet. I just haven't had any time. But anyway, I love Zelda. That's my favorite gaming franchise, so I have to choose one of those games for sure.
Zelda is great.
Yeah, I mean, like if I could only pick one to play forever, it'd probably be Sonic. You know, it'd probably be something Sonic.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm a big Sonic fan myself too. I love Sonic. Those games are great.
And it's either two or it's Sonic and Knuckles. I don't know which.
Either of those are a fair choice. I like both those games
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah. And I don't know, like I probably fell more in love with playing video games because of Sonic, because it did, you know, what you were talking about with Zelda. I mean, I think it did that to me a little bit with platformers, just because back then it was a really big deal to get to pick which direction you went. You know, like you're in a level and there's different paths and stuff. You know, but also just the overall package and the atmosphere, like I never thought about video game music before I played those games.
Oh, the music in Sonic is one of the best things in all of the games. You always look forward to Sonic because of the music.
I mean, at least the early stuff.
I like some of the newer stuff too, but
okay. Well, some of it's good. I've heard from people that it's more hit and miss, and what I've played. Hit and miss.
Yeah.
Not memorable. I mean, I don't know. Like, I haven't played anything modern that's as memorable as Marble Zone. I'm just saying.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, if I'm gonna pick between the two games that you mentioned, I think 2 is technically, like, level design wise, a better game.
I think you're right.
But I like Sonic and Knuckles quite a bit too. Knuckles is one of my favorite characters in video games. I love Knuckles. He's a great character.
Yeah. Since we're doing favorites, let's do this one. What would you say is going all the way back? And I don't know even for early stuff what you guys have had, because again, you know, you guys. Okay, first of all, what was your first video game system ever?
N64 was mine.
Was it?
Yep.
Okay. Steve?
Can't even remember. I think I didn't have a system until PlayStation 1.
Wow, okay. Because I mean, I had an NES and then I had a Genesis. I had an NES, and then my mom bought me a Super Nintendo for my birthday in 1992 or 93, I forget, and wouldn't buy me any more games than the one it came with. So I played Mario World all the time because that's all we had.
That's a good game to be stuck with because it's phenomenal. One of the best games of all time.
Yep, it sure is. And I mean, you're playing through that game, and what I love about the age of playing games, by the way, before the internet, is that you figured out these secrets on your own, right? Maybe a friend or something would tell you about something, but I mean, you go through, and when you first got that game, you didn't know there were going to be all these secrets and these other levels you could unlock, and
Yeah.
it's so satisfying
Yeah.
when you're like, oh my god, it's like it's like I found a key that opened secret treasure or something. It was really cool. And NES was kind of like known for that,
Mm.
and so it seems like they took with this is just an aside, but with Mario World, it seems like they took that reputation with NES where people would just like lose their minds when they discover something that was hidden, and they're like, "We'll just make a whole game out of that," And there's probably there's like another 30 or 40 levels that you don't have to play. That game is like 100 levels strong or more. It's crazy, but no. Like I said, my first was NES. And then we got a Genesis at my dad's house later. I think Dad sold his NES to get a Genesis. What do you guys have? And maybe you've already sort of said it, but I haven't really talked about mine. Would you guys say that you have a favorite video game system of all time? I mean, we talked current a lot, but do you guys think that the newer stuff has supplanted systems for you, or would you go back and play one over newer systems?
Um,
I mean, in terms of like the hardware,
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm gonna pick hardware, like, are we forgetting the software that's on the system? Just like,
Yeah, let's forget that.
okay,
Let's just talk about the capabilities, what you like in a system, and your controller's a thing. Certainly.
I think my favorite hardware, discounting all of the software that's on a system, I think my favorite hardware was the Xbox 360. I love the controller. I love the online infrastructure. Like, I can't tell you how many times I would get home from high school and just continue talking with my friends that were in high school about whatever we were talking about when we left school, before we got on the bus that day.
You had such a
Yeah.
different experience
Yeah.
to be in high school, man.
Yeah.
Like, we were just discovering the internet. It was a big deal that there were like text chat rooms when I was in high school, man.
Yeah, like when I would go home, we all of my friends would just go on and like play Halo 3 on party chat and just chat with each other about whatever happened that day. If someone wasn't in that class, we just talk about that. I mean, I think if I were to choose a system with my favorite software on it, I'd probably choose the N64 or the GameCube. It's very neck and neck for those two for me. But hardware-wise, definitely the 360.
Well, I gotta say, this is just an aside, but we haven't talked at all about PS2, and that is arguably the greatest library.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly what
it
I was
is.
going to say. Is that if we were talking about what you could pick, I think PS2 is ultimately the
Yeah.
best system ever because there's not a single game except maybe Halo that you couldn't
That's
play on
still
PS2.
That's still not what I would pick just because of my nostalgic love for the classic stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because that doesn't have my favorite side scrollers on it, but you cannot deny that library.
Yeah,
Oh, you can't.
that's
Oh,
exactly why I love PS2. But I gotta agree with Dan. I think Xbox 360 is still my favorite hardware. It's exactly like what you said, where class gets out, you go home, you play a game, and you talk with your friends online for like 6 hours. And a lot of times you like do homework through the internet. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
I
I
used to
didn't
do that too.
understand this class at all. I missed it. What happened? And then you recap the whole day
Wow.
while shooting people in the head in Call of Duty.
Yeah, I used to
It
do
was
the
a good
same thing.
experience. Especially because especially because it's high school. So you're in high school and you feel like everything's the end of the world because you're a teenager, and you have your friends with you constantly, and you're playing games where you do the things you wish you could do, but no, you can't. With like FPSs. So yeah, it was just good stress relief, and everything with the Xbox was at least hardware wise easy. I never had a problem. I never got red rings or anything. It was just a matter of turning it on, putting it in my hand, and there was no annoying process to get the game to load or customize this or that. It was just turn it on and play.
Well, and my parents thought that things were more complicated when I was going to high school, man. Like, I'm listening to you guys talking. I'm like, wow, it's totally different than what we were doing. Yeah, I have a hard time disagreeing with you guys as far as hardware goes. With 360, although I've never been an online person. I think the idea of having to pay monthly to play online is preposterous, and I cannot make myself do it. It doesn't make any sense. Now, I'm saying that being a person that doesn't play online games, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't understand the whole thing. Like, if I'm gonna play video games with other people, I want them to come over to my house. Like, that's the, you know, that's my the co-op thing is when I was a kid was you have parties and people come over to your house and you actually interact face to face with human beings. You know, that's what you do. With the more modern stuff, everything that I've liked has been one player stuff. You know, single player. I've not cared about anything. That you play with other people online. For the most part, I played Mario Kart online a little bit, but you know that was free. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, so I can't get excited about
Did
that.
you play? I'm not sure if you had the system at the point, but did you play GoldenEye
Yeah.
when that first came out and the online thing was brand new?
On what? What are we talking about?
GoldenEye for what system was it on? I
It
can't.
was on the Wii and the 360.
Before
Oh, you're
the
talking
original,
about when
not
they brought
the
it
not the
back? Yeah,
remake.
yeah. Well, that is a remake because it's a remake of a game that was on the 64.
Yeah, but that had online, didn't it?
The 64?
No. The
I don't know what we're talking about.
there was the old 007 GoldenEye game that had online. It was a really big deal. I used to play it all the time. Can't remember
How old was it, Steve?
90s. It was right when the movie came out.
There was not an online GoldenEye game in the 90s. What system would it have been on?
I can't remember. 97. Here it is. GoldenEye, developed by Rare, Nintendo 64.
On the 64, but it wasn't online.
Yeah, the 64 didn't have online capabilities.
The first thing that did was Dreamcast, and that was 98.
Okay, it was just the multiplayer what I was thinking of.
Yeah, multiplayer. Yeah. But when you said online, wow, your brain's remembering things differently because you've played online too much.
Yes, exactly.
Steve.
I kept thinking of GoldenEye.
That's hilarious.
Online.
No, we played that like crazy. Yeah, I had people over and we played 4-player all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. I've not played the remake. I keep wanting to. I keep meaning to.
The remake's
I've not,
really good.
I've not gotten
Yeah, it's good.
That's what everybody tells me. Yeah. And that's the thing that needed an update. By the way, speaking of updates, and then I'll give you mine real quick. I saw a couple weeks ago somebody had developed one level, like the first main level in 64, as an HD update thing. And boy, I wish Nintendo would put that out. That is
Nintendo
cool.
shut it down too, which is unfortunate.
That is unfortunate. I wish they would develop it because that needs to happen. That needs an update. That needs a visual update. Keep everything exactly the way it is and where it is. Just make the graphics look a little bit more updated.
Yeah,
a little cleaner.
They did it on the DS, but I want to see it like on my TV with like full
Me too.
HD graphics. You know.
Well, you know what though, on the DS it didn't look that different. Like I don't remember it being that much of a cleanup.
It had it was pretty significantly better looking, but you got to play as like, you know, other characters like Luigi and Wario and Yoshi and stuff.
That was cool, but you know what my problem with it was? I couldn't play very far with it, Dan, because I don't like playing a 3D side scroller with a D-pad. I need a stick, dude.
I agree with you 100% on that.
Ugh, it hurt my thumb. I couldn't do it. I hated it.
No, I agree with you.
And I felt like I wasn't as precise either.
That's definitely true. I really want them to remake 64 for the Wii U. I feel like that would be something that
I think it would do well. They could, or at the very least, make it a download thing. You could make it a half price sort of thing.
Just give it to a port house. I mean, you don't need like Nintendo's like A team to be developing that. You know,
not at all. It's a cleanup job.
The port house that they gave the two N64 Zelda games to for the 3DS, like. They're a pretty competent port house. They made really great games out of in updating some of the stuff from those games. So if you gave them 64 and put it on the Wii U, I mean, that would be awesome.
I guess for me, library-wise, because hardware I can't really argue with the 360. But like as far as libraries go, and even just controllers, what I like to play with, it is a toss-up for me between the Super Nintendo and the Dreamcast.
No, that's fair. Dreamcast is a really underrated system. I used to love the Dreamcast. One of my friends had one when I was a kid. I used to go over. I was like, "This is cool. I like the Dreamcast a lot."
It's a cool system. It controller's a little bulky, but I like it. It just needed a second stick.
Yeah, that's true. It kind of had the N64 problem. It wasn't as awkward as the N64 controller.
It's not awkward. It's just round. Yeah, like and the 64 controller is sort of like that too. But the difference is with 64, you had to like ride your finger over to the middle, and that's weird. And it's like, where do you? And like people would come over, and not everybody, but like there were like 2 or 3 different ways to hold that controller.
Yeah.
And I thought that because it has 3 handles, it's weird. Because the way I was playing it was, the two farthest handles, and then you ride your thumb over to the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I had friends, and my wife does this too, that would hold it in the middle with the left hand with the stick, and that just looks weird, and I can't handle it. Like when people play it like that, I'm like, that's not how you're supposed to play it, and I think I'm wrong ultimately. But well, anyway, we're coming up on an hour, and we've just been kind of randomly talking about video games. Anything else you guys want to mention? Anything coming out or anything recent that we should mention before we go?
I'm really excited about the new Zelda that's coming out just because of how ambitious it looks. It looks like it's going to be the first open world Zelda game since the original. And it's like fully realized in like 3D and stuff, so I'm really excited about that. I'm just really excited about LucasArts not having Star Wars anymore. EA's getting them. The new Battlefront game looks phenomenal.
So good.
And I'm just really excited to see what EA does with Star Wars. Supposedly they're giving BioWare another Star Wars RPG single player, which they made KOTOR, so that would be amazing if that game ever comes to fruition. That's one thing that I meant to mention when we were in the middle of this discussion here. Star Wars video games were kind of the childhood for me as well. LucasArts put out a lot of really great games when they were around, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Did you ever play Rogue Squadron?
Yes, Rogue Squadron's fantastic. Great game.
That was cool. I sucked at it because I got to fly around and find things, but I thought that was really cool. And what I played of Shadows of the Empire was really cool.
Shadows of the Empire is great. Rogue Squadron's great. Star Wars Bounty Hunter was great. All of the Jedi Knight games where it's the first person you play as Kyle Katarn, or in Academy you make your own character. Pretty much everything coming out of LucasArts Star Wars during that time was fantastic. I loved all those games.
And even a little bit later, Force Unleashed is pretty good.
I love Force Unleashed.
The first one's good.
It's
the second
ridiculous.
one's not good.
Yeah, I haven't even played around with that because I've heard so many bad things that I just didn't care. But yeah, the original I love. I mean, I think you're way too freaking powerful in that game.
Yeah,
but it's fun. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Plus, you get Sam Witwicker as the main character, and he's a great voice actor.
Whitwer.
Yeah,
Sam Witwer.
Yeah.
But yeah, Witwer's great. I've met him. He's fun.
He's playing the Emperor in Rebels. So that should be cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
But anyway.
Yeah, Darth Maul and the Emperor. Wow, that's odd. He's just always bad, Sam Witwer. You're always bad. Steve, anything new that you want to mention?
The new Lego Jurassic World game.
I know.
I can't wait.
Exciting.
Mad Max is getting a video game. That's long overdue. I can't wait for that.
That game looks good. It
does.
Basically looks like Batman in Mad Max world, which is what Shadows of Mordor was, the Lord of the Rings one. And
yeah, exactly.
That was a great game, so
yeah, I can't wait for that.
This is good.
I talked a lot about Uncharted 4. I absolutely cannot wait for Uncharted 4 to come out, because Uncharted 2 is probably one of the greatest video games ever made. It's just so well constructed. And Uncharted 3 is just as good, but 2's just a little bit better. So yeah, I can't wait for those. And hopefully there's a new Dragon Ball Z game coming out pretty soon, because there's a new movie. And I know there's DLC, but I'd prefer a new game.
Did you ever play The Last of Us, Steve?
Yes, I really like The Last of Us.
They announced the date for The Last of Us 2, I think, today. So that's something you can be excited for.
When is that coming out?
I don't know. I didn't read the article in detail because I don't own a PlayStation, so it's not going to affect me. But
I mean, I hate zombies, but The Last of Us is great.
Yeah, I've heard great
titles
things about
like that. Titles like that always crack me up because they sound so final, but then we keep making more. Like, I mean, I guess I get that you could be the Last of Us, but then like keep enduring. But like things like Final Destination 2 and 3, and like when there was, before they made more, when there was a Final Destination trilogy, that always cracked me the heck up. Like, it sounds like it's the end already. I get why. I've watched that, but I'm just saying it's funny. I am all over Lego Dimensions.
Oh yeah, the game where you buy the sets and you put them in the game.
I'm all over it because my family gets Disney Infinity, and at first I was like, oh, I don't want to get into another one of these, but Lego Dimensions is everything Disney Infinity should be, as far as what it looks like so far, because the the whole point of a thing like this is to use your imagination and go as far as you can. So why are we limiting people so they can only put certain characters in certain worlds, right? Lego Dimensions, their big selling point, they might as well just plaster like we're better than Disney Infinity, because their big selling point is you can take anything and put it any place. Also, what comes with their launch kit is really cool. Like sometimes Disney Infinity will put one out, and I'll be like, I don't know, I don't really care about that character and that character. Their launch kit comes with Batman and the Batmobile, and I think like Gandalf and the chick from Lego Movie. That's a really good starting set.
That's awesome.
Like, that's pretty cool, right? Then one of the launch sets, one of the launch extra sets that you can buy for an extra level is Back to the Future. They're just starting right away with Back to the Future.
That's awesome.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, I'm all over it.
Hopefully they do Turtles, too.
And they're making a big deal out of, we have all these things we're gonna do, but we're not gonna tell you what it is yet. And when you watch the launch trailer, which is hilarious, by the way, because it's live action, and it's this guy who gets visited by those three characters that are in the launch thing, and they just come through this portal that he has to build out of Legos, and it's the portal, like, you get this portal with the game, and it's like, the thing's like 150 pieces or something. It's awesome. And you build this, and it doesn't, and this launch thing doesn't cost any more than Disney Infinity does, and you get this big Lego portal you have to build. And anyway, the dialogue in that is hilarious, and the banter's great. And anyway, there were a couple of Easter eggs for things that they're doing, for properties that they're almost definitely going to do. One of them is The Simpsons. Wow,
that's cool.
There's a donut, and I'm almost positive they're going to do Simpsons because they have that license.
And they got to do Star Wars. That's a staple of Lego.
Here's the thing. I don't know if that's going to happen. And this is the thing I'm a little bit worried about, because Disney Infinity has the Marvel characters, and because it's probably going to get Star Wars. I kind of don't know if Lego will get it, and that is such a staple. I'm with you. It would suck if they didn't have it. There's a ship in that some people were like, "Oh man, that's a Star Wars." It's not. It's a DC thing. Okay. So, or at least I'm pretty sure it's a DC thing. So whatever. And then I'm trying to remember what the other one was. There was Ghostbusters. There's a PKE meter. Awesome. There's a PKE meter in that trailer, and I think they're probably going to do Ghostbusters. So that's exciting too.
Very cool.
They have that license, and the thing about all the licenses they have, I mean, they could just go forever. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Lego is like, printing money at this point. It's amazing how they've taken like the physical toys and expanded it into kind of a multimedia marketing toy empire for kids now. It's really cool.
Yeah, and it's okay because it's all good.
Oh,
or at least most of it.
I'm not saying it's bad. I love the Lego games. They're great,
But yeah, I mean, it's just really cool to see something like that is such a consumer juggernaut, and it's like they're making money hand over fist. But oh well,
it's great stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And the other thing I'm excited about with it is that it looks like it's probably going to be really similar gameplay to just what the Lego games are, except that there's just all this extra stuff. And I've loved those. My wife likes them more than I do because there's a lot of puzzle solving, and sometimes I suck at it.
Yeah, I used to play so much Lego Star Wars back in the day on my original Xbox. I love those games.
Oh, they were addicting.
Yeah, I did too. They're great. But yeah, I'm with you, Steve. I'm excited about the Jurassic Park one too. That was one of the big ones I was hoping we'd someday get, and didn't think we would, so and now we're gonna get it. I had this conversation the other day with my wife, and I said, Chris Pratt's career right now is hilarious. Because Chris Pratt, hang on with me for a minute, was Star-Lord. Lego's got the Marvel license, so there's been now a Lego Star-Lord. And I'm sure that's going to be in video games, right? And then he was in the Lego movie before that, and so he's just a character in the Lego universe already. And now his likeness from Jurassic World is going to be in a Lego video game. So Legos seem to connect nearly everything he's doing. It's hilarious.
That's awesome.
That is hilarious.
Anyway, well, that's all I wanted to talk about with that part of this. You guys want to go ahead and close out our random video game talk?
Yeah, sure. I think we had a good discussion.
Yeah, it was fun. It was kind of. We talk. Wow, that could have been 5 different videos, Dan.
Yeah, it could have been. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm just looking forward to the future of where video games go. There's a lot of talk right now about like virtual reality. Sony's developing a virtual reality kind of interface helmet thing. There's the Oculus Rift, and I'm sure Microsoft will throw their hat into that game eventually. So, I mean,
and then Nintendo will put out Virtual Boy 2.
Oh no!
I had to say it.
Yeah, Nintendo as always is ahead of the game, but their hardware is so clunky nobody caught on. So yeah, I'm just really excited about video games right now. It's a really vibrant and interesting medium to be involved with, and I don't know, all of the games I'm playing right now, I'm really enjoying.
Yeah, I agree. Video games are great right now, and there's something for everybody, but there's also something good for everybody. Like I play lots of FPSs. Those are part of the problem when it comes to video game culture, but you can get legitimately well-made, well-told stories in those games every now and then.
You got to play Wolfenstein, Steve.
I played part of that game. It's awesome.
Yeah. I just don't feel like there's nearly as much coming out as there used to be, though. Just in general.
I don't know. That.
Yeah, I don't think I.
Am I wrong about that? I don't know. I don't hear about stuff, and I mean, I'm not actively going out and looking.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like if you kept up with it, there'd be too much to buy for some people.
Oh, okay, all right, good.
I just get a very limited range of what I get, so I can see why you say that.
Right, like as an
well, RPG, as do I, certainly, yeah. But
right. And if you're like if you're a fan of a specific genre, like, you know, for me, I'm an RPG fan. Like, sometimes it feels like you're starved for content. When you finish one, you're like, oh, when's the next one coming out? But if you're trying to buy, like, you know, most of the games that come out for a system, you're gonna have more games than you can afford.
Yeah,
to say the least.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thanks a lot for listening to us randomly talk about video games for no good reason except we felt like it. And we will see you again on some other show that's more planned out and has a reason for existing. Thanks for listening. We sure appreciate it. I'm Captain Logan, and this was Dan Torrey.
Thanks for watching, guys.
And beware the Steve Baxi.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
We will see you later. Bye.